AC Milan in 2002 bought 2 of our subspace systems. Afterwards, their injury rate dropped 91%, an incredible statistic. After buying the 2 QXEI systems, their injury rate dropped 91%. Incredible. This is due to the quality of the staff of the chiropractors and the therapists and the massage therapists and the psychologists that we see here, and their ability to interface in natural medicine with the AC Milan players. AC Milan, after purchasing the QXEI units in 2002, will win the Italian League and also win the European Championship. And people will say that winning is the best measure of success. Happy the QXEI is involved. Desiree Dubonnet here. Hopefully you've watched the first sport video that we did, and you saw us in AC Milan doing some work. Well, perhaps you'd like to know about some of the work that's been going on since. You see, the EPFX, the electrophysiological feedback zeroid, which was registered in America in 1989, was designed to be able to measure the voltage amperage as well as resistance. In order to measure resistance, we have to apply a signal. The signal that we apply would be a voltammetric signal with different types of oscillations and patterns. Thereby, we'd be able to stimulate muscles very slightly with micro/millivoltage, at the same period being able to measure them. Once we could measure their oscillations and waveforms, we'd be able to get an idea of the muscular structure and also be able to develop an idea of how well the muscles work. We were soon able to find that there was a pattern that we found for healthy tissue versus unhealthy tissue. In other words, a healthy muscle would conduct a different type of electrical pattern than would an unhealthy, stressed or sore or some type of traumatized tissue. Thus, once we knew the type of waveform from trauma, and there's different types of waveforms for different types of trauma, being it inflammatory or atrophied tissue, etc., being whether it's sports trauma from fatigue, lactic acid buildup, or whether it was from actual blow, an actual physical trauma. Once we were able to figure out these type of things and see the wave pattern, we would then be able to develop a signal that would be able to counteract those. Since we would be able to input voltage, we'd be able to input electrons or drain off electrons, we'd be able to do a counterbalancing program with the system while we are re-educating the muscles. Re-educating the muscles to allow them to be able to be more healthy and to reduce their trauma and to be able to heal quicker. This is why, as you've seen in the first video, that when the AC Milan football team got the machines, they were able to drop their injury rate 91%. 91% is dramatic in sport, to be able to put back your star onto the field after a problem. This is very key and very, very helpful. So we're able to derive a system of remuscular education, stress reduction biofeedback, to stimulate injury repair. That went beyond just treatment of injuries, as we usually think of medicine, but into the field of peak performance, trying to develop maximization of oxygen, muscle, glucose, energy, and the whole idea of developing the highest degree of sports performance. Treating injuries is just part of sports medicine as we see it. Worked with the San Antonio Spurs, Dennis Johnson, who was most valuable player, MVP of the NBA, was one of the coaches inside the organization. He had talked with me, and it was a thrilling moment, one of my childhood idols, to talk to Dennis Johnson. Incredible man. And he used the machine and worked on players inside the San Antonio Spurs organization. Called me up and had phenomenal results. It was able to help them not only to get their trauma tissue down, but also to increase their coordination and their muscle tone. Because as we were re-educating these muscles, we could re-educate these muscles into peak performance. Every athlete has small little problems in their muscles that we could electrically correct. It was very interesting as we started doing this work. And we did the work in many ways with many other different athletes.
Usain Bolt is the new king of sprint after that astonishing 100-meter final last Saturday, and he's going to try and double up, of course, in the 200 tomorrow. From relative obscurity to worldwide superstar within a space of 10 weeks. But who is this man?
Then, at the beginning of 2008, we started into a contract with some Chinese people. The Chinese Olympic Committee had heard of what we were doing with our machine, and they were very interested. 450 some athletes, Chinese athletes, participated in the Olympics. We set up a scientific study with the Chinese government, with the Chinese Olympic team, to be able to study 158 of them, roughly a third of their athletes. These were athletes that they chose that were substandard performance, that they didn't believe would be able to win medals. They had given us different athletes who had trauma, injury, and other different factors, and they didn't think that they would be able to really perform. I sent a team of therapists, a team of researchers, over to China to start to work with these Chinese athletes.
The Chinese word for sports is TU. It translates as the education of the body. With ancient Chinese sports, however, moral education was often regarded as more important.
In China, the word for sport is TU. And this means educating the muscles. So our system, which was credentialed to re-educate muscles, was there to educate the muscles and to help these Chinese athletes to perfect their skills, taking them from performance to peak performance. And after working with these athletes for about 2 months and taking some of them and having to work with some of them 10 times and some of them only 5 times and some of them even greater times, our therapist worked and helped them to develop their muscle skills and their entire biological fitness. And lo and behold...
In his study, The Marrow of a Nation, Professor Andrew Morris points out how the Chinese struggled with finding a new identity based on emerging Western sports. The ancient Chinese concept of cultivating the body seemed irrelevant in a modern world. At the turn of the century, the Chinese image was seen as feeble and old-fashioned, in contrast to the new Western ideals of physical perfection. The question of improving China's sporting prowess was raised in 1907 at Nankai University by academic Zhang Boling. In a lecture, he posed 3 visionary questions. When can Chinese athletes attend the Olympic Games? When will they be capable of winning medals at the Games? And most significantly, when can China invite the world to Beijing to attend the Olympic Games? It's taken nearly a century for all of Zhang Boling's questions to be fully answered. The first Chinese competitors took part in the Olympic Games in 1924. However, it would be 60 years before they won their first Olympic gold medal in 1984.
I have here 2 letters that were sent, and he writes, "Dear Professor Nelson, first of all, I am pleased to inform you that it was a very successful project accomplished by the Beijing Sports Medicine Hospital and the team led by Mr. Victor Qi in the period from May to August 2008. We have achieved an outstanding result beyond our expectation in the health management of Chinese Olympic athletes. In the meantime, I would like to express my personal appreciation for your wisdom and contributions in the area of health management." He also then takes the opportunity to invite to Beijing Dr. Nelson at his leisure. Thank you very much.
More than 23 of the medals that the Chinese won came from the athletes tested with our system, tested and trained with the EPFX and SKIO. And many of these athletes were not expected to win medals. And when we charted their before and after performance, there was a dramatic 25% increase in performance, speed, coordination, confidence. Because as our machine is re-educating the muscles and relieving certain muscular stress in its biofeedback capacities, there's a dramatic increase in performance. The muscles are able to deal with injury better. We're able to stimulate health and bring them back to body tone quicker and faster and easier. All with the different sports programs, peak performance programs inside the EPFX. Because the EPFX was a system designed to help work with the body electric, measuring the body electric, measuring the muscles, measuring the electrical factors oscillating in and out of these muscles, and producing electrical signals that would be able to help balance them and to re-educate those muscles through an unconscious process that would lead to peak performance and a dramatic increase in sport activity. As we've seen many different athletes from all over the world being able to respond. We'll take a read now of a letter that came to us from one of our workers in Colorado as he worked with the Colorado University football team.
Dear Professor Nelson, as you remember, we went to CU Buff Sports Center 4 weeks ago. The team had played 2 lousy games. The coach was upset and said he was embarrassed about the performances. So the main trainer let us work on one of the top players that had an injured hamstring. Bill Fanning did an hour session on Monday, mostly detox. I saw him in person on Wednesday. I did all the different sport performances and injury therapies, and Valerie worked on him on Friday with focus on emotional and mental support. We have done that for 3 weeks now. The head trainer gave us permission to do the whole team. So before the game that night, before I did sleep and relax, adding all players and coaches' names on the ad patient. So during the game, we divided up 3 SKIOs and 2 laptops on different parts of the team. 1 on defense, 1 coaches, other offense, and so on. They lost the game, but won in time, having the ball in yards and such. The commentator thought the game was very odd. The game after that, they played with our support. They won 42-0, and our player was back on the game and was voted player of the game. Not that the opponents were the most difficult, but players started to come together as a team, and much clearer play and not as many major misses. Now comes the last game, the one they had last Saturday. This is against Oklahoma, who they are ranked 3rd in the country. CU has lost against them 12 years in a row, last 5 games. This time I did a session on Wednesday and Valerie on Thursday. I focused on oxygenation performance issues, and Valerie worked on the communication between players and between coaches and players. Friday night, I did sleep and relax again, long term in the morning, and did oxygenation up until the game started. The players we worked on in person did the first touchdown. After the first half, it was 7-17 Oklahoma. Just after the beginning of the second half, it was suddenly 7-24 Oklahoma. And we saw that the players started to lose a little bit of their spirit. So we did will to win, pancreas balance and more oxygen stem, etc. And suddenly we saw the players getting a surge again. Turned the whole game around and won 27-24, the biggest upset of the season. An amazing game. No one would have dreamed that they would win. The word miracle has popped up in the media. I am in a little bit state of mixed awe and shock. It's pretty amazing. So thank you, Bill, for the great device. It's a miracle device. I am so happy to be a part of this cutting-edge technology. Thanks, Heinrich.
And as we can see, the machine helps oxygenation as well. Helps to free up oxygenation. Very important for people working at Colorado, such a high altitude. Because the machine is key on working with the body electric, interfacing with the body electric, measuring the body voltage, the amperage resistance. And in this short little video that I just wanted to introduce some of the new concepts of the work that we're doing in sports medicine. This is very exciting, and I welcome you, the therapist, to learn a little bit more, take some of our classes in sports medicine, so you can learn some of the different ways that these therapists also help them to get into good nutrition habits and a host of other different things. So I hope that I've touched your heart and helped to show you a little bit of the future of energetic medicine, the future of energetic sports medicine. This is Dr. Nelson, Desiree Dubonnet, signing off for you.